Hey everybody, DJ Omega Sean here. I got a real nice view here today. I can use both hands. Okay. Well, we're starting part 4 of my life story. And we were in with Nikki and how we met. We'll kind of do a recap of that real quick. So we'll go into this. I met Nikki and, she stayed with me. We were friends. We just had a good time together. We did things together. We went to Siesta Key, and she never left my side. So the great thing was we were friends first. And like I said, we weren't even really meant to be together, So the funny part is we weren't trying to get into a relationship. But it just kind of happened that way. So, I lived with Mike. And we became evicted, which then meant me and Nikki were on the streets. And at that time, she'd been going to pain management. I'll be honest with you. She'd been going to pain management, and she was going to what's called the methadone clinic. And she had had trouble with Dilaudid down here. And there was a lot of people that went through this. I mean, Florida was the pill mill capital of the world. Anybody can verify that. So she was going to the methadone clinic, and all of a sudden we weren't able to pay for that anymore, and she became deathly ill. Anybody who's went through methadone withdrawals understands completely, what's going on here, but, she made it through this. It was absolutely brutal. It was like 45 days. I won't go into the milliliters that she took a day, but it was a pretty high dose. So, I had to take care of her for all this time. But, I was able to panhandle and, I was able to make things happen. It was rather hard. But after that, I had her by my side, so we didn't actually hold a sign at first. We did a lot of the going up to people and, hey, we're hungry and we're homeless. And we looked poor, we looked horrible too, both of us. But the one thing that was always there was we had each other. Because let me tell you, Nikki was absolutely beautiful. Beautiful. I could show you pictures of her, you could look on her Facebook, whatever, but Nikki was a gorgeous woman, and she didn't have to be on the street with a loser like me, but she chose to be, and that really meant so much to me that she did. So, we went, it was about 2 years we were homeless, and we found an elderly lady that needed some help with like a home health care aid, and she had a spare room that we could stay in. So we stayed with her for almost a year, and Nikki started getting these abscesses that I was telling you guys about, and she wasn't able to help lift this lady, and she wasn't able to help her do some of the things that she really, really needed to do. And, she had to go to the pharmacy and get this lady's medicine because I wasn't allowed to sign for it. I didn't want that responsibility. But I did side jobs, where I went and mowed people's grass in the trailer park and stuff. I charged like $10 a lot. And I had the ladies' lawnmower that I could do that with. So, they knew me throughout the community. It was the hardest thing in our life to have to leave this old lady because she was becoming deathly ill. At this time, her kids were talking about putting her into a nursing home. So, unfortunately, we kind of lost our place to live there as well. So, back on the streets, we are again as a couple, and, we were always resourceful when it came to, building a shelter and everything. So we've always had a place to stay where we were out of the rain, we were out of the cold, we had plenty of blankets because people always gave that. And, we always had clothes for her. Maybe sometimes not so many for me, but I always made sure she was taken care of. And I did the absolute best I could. The worst part about it was being that we weren't able to take a shower because neither one of us had an ID. ID equals everything here. So, it was right after this that I had my license basically stolen. And my birth certificate was around 2017 because one lady looked my license up, and I did have a Florida driver's license, and it's good until 2022. But from what I've been told by everybody, I need a birth certificate and Social Security card and able to get another one. Plus, I have a fine that needs to be paid because I owe the courts a little bit of money, and they suspended my license because of. But, needless to say, Nikki she just was always there. She was positive, and she always wrote things down. She found that living on the streets was kind of like a social experiment, or it was like just camping every day. She enjoyed camping. But, I didn't see it the same way she did. I found it a hard struggle lifestyle that I'm now pushing a lady in a wheelchair in 90-some degree weather with all of our belongings in her lap. She carried everything. Maybe we would put a backpack on the back of the chair. It was very awkward and hard to get around. And unfortunately, because we were running on pavement, I would run the wheels off of a wheelchair in less than 6 months, and I would have to get another one. It wasn't feasible for us to get new tires or, that kind of thing, because I guess you can. I don't know. But, there came a morning, actually there was about a week, that she was really, really sick. Real sick. So she became so sick that I was afraid she was going to die while I was pushing her. But it was March 27th, the morning of March the 27th, 2018. I woke up and Nikki was babbling. She was making incoherent sounds, kind of like she had a stroke, if that makes any kind of sense. And it scared me really, really bad. I said, "Honey, is everything okay?" And she just babbled, and I'm like, "Well, you need to go to the hospital." And she's shaking her head no. So I pulled her up out of the shelter that we had made, and I put her in her wheelchair. She was very, 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 very heavy, and yet she was not a little person. I mean, she weighed about 140 pounds, but she was almost 5'10". She was just a little bit taller than me. So what happened was I pulled her up, and it's all dead weight underneath of her arms. I picked her up that way, and I placed her in the chair, and I went running out because we were up by what used to be Sonny's barbecue at 57th and 41 here in Bradenton. And what happened was the head contractor of the company that was building the Aldi's there, which is there now, I'll take pictures someday for you, and the contractor was there, and I'm like, "Help me, help me, help me." So he was shocked, he didn't know what was going on. So basically, let me grab a drink here. Getting kind of hard to talk. I drink these every day. Right now they're buy one get one free at 7-Eleven. It's called Replenish. It's like a Gatorade type drink, kind of low in sugar to help me with my diabetes. So this one here happens to be Guava Splash. Now I can talk a little better. Got a drip. Okay, so I make it over to the guy that's the head contractor for this building project that was coming up, and I tell him, I said, my wife's dying. I said, call 911. Immediately he grabs his phone, calls 911, and basically I'll show you. I was kind of holding Nikki's head in the crook of my arm, you know what I mean? And he's on the phone with 911. I'm telling her, please, baby, please don't go. Please don't go. Please don't go. Don't leave me. And I was begging her, please stay, please stay. And I looked her in the eyes. I looked her right dead in the eyes. And at that moment, she looked at me. And I said, I love you. And she just kind of mouthed, love you too. She let me know. So she looked over at me with her big, beautiful eyes, and all of a sudden it just was. They turned completely yellow. I mean, yellow like a school bus yellow. Her eyes did. And at that point, she was gone. I knew that her soul had left her body at that point. So the ambulance was right there. I heard them. And they passed the spot up. I'm like, oh my God, get here. She just left. She's just gone. You can bring her back. So they turned around and they got there. And they had her laying on the ground. They opened her shirt up. She's completely exposed, nude, the upper part of her body. It's embarrassing. People are all out standing. They're looking out the windows at the Red Lobster where we were in their parking lot. And I'm begging them, please help her, please help her, please help her. So, they're on top of her. They're giving her compressions. They're breathing for her. They got the bag going. And about 15 minutes, they finally get a faint pulse. They put her in the ambulance, and they transport her then to Blake Hospital, which is one of the closest ones here. But she was in dire straits when they took her. So I thought, well, they got her back. Maybe she's not gone. So, I spent the day panhandling, crying, pleading with everybody that was coming up. I told them, my wife, even though she was my fiance, I consider her my wife, and everybody that's here considered her that as well. But needless to say, everybody was so helpful that day. They stopped and they said they'll pray for me, they'll pray for her. I just felt the love of the friendly city of Bradenton. There was nothing like it at that day. So it was later on in the day, and my friend Will Davis and his wife Desiree, they lived right up the street from where I panhandle, and I know them. And they used to stop and give us things. But we were friends. I consider them friends. I don't consider them acquaintances. So I went to them and I said, is there any way you can take me to the hospital? And they told me that I had to wait until they got off work. And I said, that's fine. So about 4 or 5 o'clock, they came by and they picked me up. And I was a blubbering mess because I kept calling the hospital and, how's she doing? What's going on? And they couldn't really give me much information other than she's in very, very bad condition, and then I needed to get there as soon as I could. So, needless to say, about 4 o'clock that afternoon, Will and Desiree came and picked me up, and they went with me to the hospital, and we went in to be with her. And I held her hand, and as I was holding her hand, she went into cardiac arrest again. It took them 15 more minutes in the hospital in order to get her a pulse back. But again, they had her alive. Here I am, 46, 47, and I don't know much about how this works. So I went out in the hallway with the nurse, and the lady told me everything. She didn't sugarcoat a thing. She said when she came in here, she had lost so many brain cells that she wasn't able to no longer control her core body temperature anymore. She was 86 degrees when she got in there. So that's very bad. Very bad. And they also had her on ice to keep her from losing more, but she kept cardiac arresting in the hospital, and every single time it seemed like it was 15 minutes she was going without air. Now you add all these 15 minutes up, and what's that do to your brain? So the lady told me, Sean, if she ever survives this, if there's any possible way that there's a miracle that's going to happen here, she's not going to be the same person that she was yesterday. And I'm like, oh my God, you're serious. She's like, I'm very serious. So I said, they understood that I was just the boyfriend, but I wasn't allowed to make decisions for her, like DNR and stuff like that. So I had to get a hold of her brother and her sons. And I did that by telephone. I didn't want to spread this by an email, because my stepbrother passed away and his son saw that he died by Facebook, and we made promises to one another that that would never happen. I wanted her to contact my girls and tell them personally, not on Facebook or via text message, because that's just not the way to do it. And I did the same thing with her. I got a hold of her family. I didn't pass anything off as, through Facebook. So, we honored our wishes that way. So Nikki was gone. Her brother made the decision that they weren't going to, if she cardiac arrested again, that they would just let her go. So they did. And her family came in and I left, because you wonder, do you have family around and would they help you? Well, Nikki had family that lived here in Sarasota and in the surrounding counties around where we're at. And they were never there for her. They never knew me. They never knew anything about me. And after she passed away, I haven't heard a thing from them. It's okay, because I loved her and I took care of her. You can have the body in the end. That's not what's important. You missed out on the last years of her life. Her ex-husband made her kids miss out on the last years of her life, and they show up to the funeral and they cry. But they're not crying for her. They're not crying for my loss. They're crying for themselves. That's a very selfish reason in order to go to a funeral, is because you feel bad because you weren't there. They don't want you when they're dead. I don't want my kids when I'm dead. I want them now. I want my grandkids now. I don't want them when I die. Doesn't make any sense. I'm a practical guy, This makes you think. This will make you think when you lose people. But Nikki died. Okay, we'll say it this way. Nikki was born November 18th, 1979. She passed away March 27th, 2018. So, you figure out the years. Her brother took the body from the hospital, and he had her put in a casket and had her embalmed. And we had a funeral. It was a closed casket because they decided to wait until April 28th, 2018 in order to have her funeral. They didn't have a normal funeral because she was already, like I said, embalmed. So we could have had an open casket, but unfortunately they didn't. And I was not allowed to be at the funeral except for the first hour of the viewing, and then I was asked to leave because her kids and her ex-husband came, and that I wasn't wanted there. That hurt because I took care of her. I'm the one who's grieving. But I had a gentleman, his name was Angel, and God, he was an angel. He's a Hispanic man. He used to come by and help us, but he bought me clothes and let me take a shower at his house and that sort of thing. And I went to the funeral and I looked nice. And I felt good about myself. But I kept wondering what was underneath that lid. There was stuff I wanted to put in there. There was stuff that I wanted to spend time with her. I wanted to see her no matter what. But they said she didn't look any better than what she did when she died in the hospital. So that was pretty bad. So I decided that I wasn't going to, but they wouldn't have let me anyway. I was mistreated. I was discriminated against. I was made to feel bad. And I was told to leave. And I did, out of respect for her. I got to go to her grave after everybody had left. Also, I got to go the 2nd year anniversary. I didn't get to go last year, but I hope to go this year, and I would like to take you guys with me, and we can sit there and talk at her gravesite, and I can reminisce with her. But, man, part 4 has been really hard for me. So I hope that I've taught somebody some things, and maybe you can see the error of people's ways when, somebody was with somebody, even though you didn't know them, and, maybe they were homeless. You can't judge them because they were there for that person. I was there for her, and it hurt. It hurt a lot. So, I'm going to go ahead and get off here. We're just about time's up anyway. But we're going to start the homeless with me and panhandling. And I'm going to make the next videos are going to be a lot shorter, but it'll catch you up to today. So I've tried to stay as positive as I could and tried not to show too much emotion because it makes it difficult when you're telling a story like this if you do get emotional, It doesn't mean that I don't feel it on the inside, guys. I know that this is healthy, and I know that it's healing me. So, thank you all for watching, and give it a like and subscribe, and set that notification bell to all.